Rochester police are investigating a deadly mass shooting that happened overnight. A 29-year-old man was killed and 7 other people were injured when police say someone opened fire outside a bar on State Street. Tonight we have team coverage. Chris Horvatitz is standing by with reaction from the community. But tonight we begin with Nina Porciuncula, who is live at the Public Safety Building with the latest on the investigation. Nina, what do we know this evening?
Amanda, police tell us officers arrived on the scene of this deadly mass shooting even before somebody called 911. RPD says they're only able to give very little information at this point, especially since it is still the beginning of their investigation. But here's what we know so far. Surveillance cameras captured this scene outside the Mexican Village bar just seconds after multiple shots were fired. None of the bar's cameras captured the actual shooting, but you can see this man running away from the scene. Inside the bar, you can see people react to what the owner tells us was the moment of the shooting. Within seconds, police arrived after they heard multiple gunshots from the area of State Street and Lyell Avenue at around 2 o'clock Sunday morning. They found a 29-year-old man dead on scene, 7 others injured. Chief CIMINELLI said it all started with a dispute inside the Mexican Village bar.
This was not a general act. This stemmed from a specific dispute between identified parties in a single location.
We're told 7 men and 1 woman were shot. 6 victims were transported to Strong Memorial Hospital. Another victim was dropped off at Rochester General Hospital in a private vehicle. RPD won't be releasing their names until their families have been properly notified. Chief CIMINELLI tells us the victims range in ages of 21 to 30 years old. He clarified that contrary to early reports, none of the victims were teenagers.
The information I have is the youngest victim is 21 years of age. So at this point, we've checked and rechecked. We do not believe we have a 16-year-old victim.
We're told that more than 40 people were at the scene when the shooting happened. RPD still can't say if the victims were the only ones involved in the dispute inside the bar.
As you can imagine, that's a large number of people, so we have a lot of work to do interviewing people to try to make that determination.
RPD said they're only able to give very limited information, but Chief CIMINELLI did not comment on the suspect or even the weapon used in this mass shooting. He did, however, clarify that none of the officers were involved in this shooting and that the shots were fired from outside the bar. Amanda?
Nina, has Rochester Mayor Lovely Warren responded to this shooting at all?
Well, Chief CIMINELLI said he's been in touch with the mayor about this deadly mass shooting, and she did issue a statement saying, in part, "To the perpetrators of this crime, make no mistake, the Rochester Police Department and all of our partners in law enforcement will not rest until you are apprehended and brought to justice. Anyone who tries to hide you or help you escape justice will also be arrested." Amanda, back to you.
Yeah, Nina, those are some very powerful words. Thank you very much for our report tonight. This mass shooting was just the latest in a string of violence acts here in Rochester. And now people living in our community are looking for answers to stop all of that violence. Chris Horvatitz continues our team coverage now from the newsroom. Good evening, Chris.
Amanda, I did speak off camera with the owner of Mexican Village, and he disputed RPD's claim that the shooting was a result of an argument that occurred inside the bar. He said there were no issues last night inside. Outside, of course, a different story, and Rochester city leaders are speaking about it.
This is not a police problem, but this is a problem with our citizens, or at least some of the folks in our community.
Rochester City Council member Adam McFadden is calling out at least some of his constituents following the city's most recent act of mass violence.
You're talking about innocent people who are either killed or hurt by bullets that may not be meant for them. And then you're talking about cowards who decide that this is the only way that they can solve problems.
McFadden chairs City Council's Public Safety, Youth, and Recreation Committee. He says recent acts of violence in Rochester paint a bad narrative for the city. He wants its residents to change that.
I'd be lying to you if we have some magic bullet to this. Truthfully, our issue is really one about our citizens who do not value life, who make poor decisions.
8 people were shot.
8 people were shot.
8 people shot.
Oh.
Don Kodko works at Druk Spices next to the Mexican Village. He says what happened last night is a concern for everybody on the block.
Yeah, it's definitely, people are scared.
This is the third deadly mass shooting in the city since the Boys and Girls Club shooting last August. That wasn't even 6 months ago. I asked City Council member McFadden why Rochester has such a perception of violence compared to other cities.
Buffalo has had its problems, Syracuse not as much. Buffalo goes up and down like we go up and down. I'm not giving it an excuse, but I can tell you this, if we don't fix our economy and educational system, we can't fix violence.
The owner of Mexican Village did also mention to me that he spent the afternoon watching that surveillance video you saw earlier with investigators. He says if you watch it closely enough, it proves that there was no argument inside the bar last night. In the newsroom, Chris Horvat, it's News 10 NBC.
Thank you, Chris. And this is not the first deadly incident that happened outside of the Mexican Village. In June of 2008, police say a man was killed after a bar fight spilled out onto State Street outside of the Mexican Village Tavern. Then, according to police, a 25-year-old man, Victor Rosario, was found shot to death on a sidewalk.